In You, Season 1, Episode 2, titled The Last Nice Guy in New York, Joe Goldberg's obsession with Guinevere Beck deepens, and we get a more detailed look at his manipulation of the people around him. This episode expands on Joe's twisted view of love, and we also get a deeper understanding of Benji's toxic relationship with Beck, as well as Joe's role in Benji's downfall. The episode opens with Joe continuing to obsessively follow Beck on social media, specifically Instagram. He's piecing together more of her life and begins to focus on her relationship with her boyfriend, Benji. Benji, as Joe quickly learns, is a pretentious, self-absorbed trust fund kid who is a major influence on Beck's life, though not in a healthy way. Benji is also revealed to be a drug addict. His behavior suggests he's heavily involved in recreational drugs, and this becomes important as the episode progresses. We see that Beck is somewhat dependent on him for emotional support, even though Benji is selfish, manipulative, and increasingly difficult to deal with. He's also dismissive of Beck's career and aspirations, which only adds to the tension in their relationship. Joe, on the other hand, sees himself as the better option for Beck. He views Benji as an obstacle to his own desires, someone who is standing in the way of his perfect life with her. While Benji and Beck are at a party together, Joe is a silent observer, carefully watching their interactions. When Benji belittles Beck at the party and mocks her ambitions, Joe's jealousy and protective instincts kick into overdrive. Joe, being a skilled manipulator, begins to take drastic steps to eliminate Benji as a threat. First, he creates a false sense of camaraderie with Benji. Joe pretends to be friendly and understanding, offering Benji advice and playing the role of a nice, supportive guy. But behind the scenes, Joe is plotting how to get Benji out of the picture for good. In a major twist, Joe lures Benji into a trap by offering him a drink laced with a powerful drug that causes Benji to pass out. When Benji wakes up, he finds himself locked in Joe's basement, where Joe has set the stage to further manipulate him. At this point, Joe's twisted worldview comes to the forefront. He justifies everything he does as being for Beck's greater good. Joe doesn't just imprison Benji, he also gets creative with his manipulation. Knowing that Benji is an addict, Joe exploits this weakness. He withholds Benji's drug supply, knowing that Benji will do anything to get a fix. This is when Joe plays his most sinister card. He calls the police and sets Benji up to look like an addict caught in a drug-related crime. He frames Benji by planting drug paraphernalia, ensuring that Benji will end up behind bars. The entire situation is carefully orchestrated by Joe, who claims to be saving Beck from someone who doesn't deserve her. In his mind, locking Benji up is an act of protection for Beck, even though it's also a clear example of his manipulative and controlling behavior. Joe even goes so far as to ensure that Benji has no way of escaping, keeping him in a cage of his own making. Benji's addiction only makes this process easier, as Joe uses the promise of drugs to weaken his resolve. While Joe is busy orchestrating Benji's downfall, we also learn more about Benji's character. He's not just a smug, wealthy addict. He's also incredibly manipulative, using his charm and privilege to control people around him. However, despite his arrogance, he's also vulnerable because of his addiction. Joe sees Benji's addiction as a perfect opportunity to remove him from the picture. The moment Benji is arrested and taken away, Joe's inner monologue reveals his justification for his actions. He sees himself as a knight in shining armor for Beck, and he tells himself that he did what was necessary to rescue her from the toxic people in her life. Joe is convinced that he's the only one who truly cares about Beck's well-being, and that includes protecting her from the dangerous influence of someone like Benji. After Benji is removed from the equation, Joe's manipulation shifts into high gear. Beck, still reeling from her breakup with Benji, begins to lean on Joe more. Joe, always calculating, offers her emotional support, subtly positioning himself as the perfect man to help her pick up the pieces. This sets the stage for their relationship to take a more intimate turn, with Beck unaware of just how much Joe has orchestrated her life for his own benefit. Joe even starts to make sure Beck is distancing herself from Peach, her wealthy and somewhat possessive friend. While Joe's manipulations are largely unseen by Beck at this point, his influence is already becoming clear. Joe's obsession with her continues to deepen, and it's only a matter of time before he takes things to even darker extremes. As always, Joe's internal monologue provides a window into his warped psyche. He tells himself that he's doing the right thing, that he's the only one who truly understands Beck's needs. He views himself as the good guy, the one who will ultimately save her, despite the lengths he goes to in order to control her life and isolate her from others. The episode ends with Beck becoming more emotionally vulnerable, leading her to trust Joe even more. Joe, of course, sees this as validation for his actions, believing that he's proven to her that he's the only one who cares. By the end of episode 2, we see just how far Joe is willing to go to get what he wants. He's already set in motion a complex web of manipulation, from framing Benji to positioning himself as the perfect guy for Beck. In Joe's mind, this is all for Beck's own good. He's doing what's necessary to protect her from the people who will hurt her. But as viewers, we know that Joe is far from a hero. His actions are driven by obsession, and the consequences of his manipulations are only beginning to unfold. That's a more detailed recap of You Season 1, Episode 2. Joe's manipulation of Benji sets the stage for darker things to come. Keep watching to see just how deep Joe's obsession runs and how far he's willing to go for love.